The war between Earth and the Empire had lasted 7 years, 7 long years of death, fire, and sadness. Millions had died on both sides. Cities had turned to dust. Ships had burned in the cold darkness of space. Nobody remembered why the war started anymore. They only knew that it had to end. Sung Park was not a hero. He was a logistics officer, which meant he counted supplies and filled out forms. He had never fired a weapon in battle. He had never saved anyone's life. He was 29 years old, had no wife, no children, and his only family was his sick mother and younger sister back on Earth. The military chose him for exactly these reasons. If he died, nobody important would miss him. They had made a strange offer. They wanted peace, but their culture required something unusual: a marriage, a union between their crown princess and a human representative. It was meant to be symbolic, nothing more. A piece of paper to satisfy their ancient traditions. Both sides agreed it would last 1 Earth year. Then they would quietly end it, and everyone would go back to their normal lives. Sung received his orders on a Tuesday. By Friday, he was on a shuttle heading to the diplomatic vessel Eternal Horizon, where he would meet his alien bride for the first time. He tried not to think about it too much. He told himself it was just another assignment. A strange one, yes, but still just a job. He would smile, sign the papers, survive the year, and come home. Simple. The shuttle docked with a soft thump. Sung took a deep breath and walked through the airlock. The delegation was waiting for him. They were tall, much taller than humans. Their skin was silver and seemed to glow from within. They had 4 arms each and eyes that looked like pools of starlight. They wore robes made of fabric that shifted colors like oil on water. Everything about them was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. And then he saw her. Princess stood at the center of the group. She was the tallest among them, nearly 7 feet, with skin that shimmered like moonlight on snow. Her 4 arms were folded in a formal pose. Her eyes, deep purple with swirls of gold, studied him without emotion. Sung suddenly felt very small and very human. "You are the one called Park Sung," she said. Her voice was strange, like many voices speaking together in harmony. It was not unpleasant, just different. "Yes," he managed to say, "that's me." She tilted her head slightly. "You are smaller than I expected." The words came out before he could stop them. "You're taller than I hoped." The room went silent. The guards shifted, their hands moving toward their weapons. Sung felt his heart stop. He had just insulted the princess of an alien empire. The peace treaty would fail. The war would continue. Millions more would die, all because he could not keep his mouth shut. Then Princess laughed. The sound was unexpected and beautiful, like wind chimes caught in a sudden breeze. Her guards relaxed. The tension in the room melted away. "You speak your mind," she said. "I was told humans do this. I did not believe it until now." "I'm sorry," Sung said quickly. "I didn't mean to offend." "You did not offend me. You surprised me. That is rare." She gestured with one of her hands. "Come, the ceremony must begin." The ceremony was unlike anything Sung had seen before. They stood in a circular room filled with floating lights. Elders chanted words in their clicking musical language. Princess took his hand in 2 of hers. Her skin was cool and smooth, like polished stone. A bright light wrapped around their joined hands. It felt warm, almost alive. When it faded, Sung saw a mark on his wrist. It was a band of shifting colors, and it pulsed gently with his heartbeat. Had the same mark on her own wrist. "The binding is complete," an elder announced. "You are now joined in the eyes of the eternal stars." And just like that, Sung was married. The reception that followed was awkward. Food looked like glowing crystals and tasted like nothing he could describe. The drinks were too sweet. The music was too strange. Nobody knew what to say to him, and he did not know what to say to them. Princess stayed by his side, but they did not speak. She answered questions from her people, accepted congratulations with grace, and occasionally glanced at him with those impossible eyes. He could not read her expression. He did not know if she was angry, sad, or simply bored. When the reception finally ended, a servant showed him to his quarters. The room was small but comfortable, with a bed designed for human bodies. Through the window, he could see stars stretching into infinity. He sat on the bed and looked at the mark on his wrist. It was still pulsing, still glowing, a constant reminder that his life had changed forever. 1 year, he told himself, just 1 year. He lay down and closed his eyes. Sleep did not come easily. When it finally did, he dreamed of silver skin and purple eyes and a laugh like wind chimes in a storm. Outside his window, the eternal horizon began its journey toward space. The war was over. The peace had begun. And somewhere in the depths of the ship, Princess stood alone in her chambers, looking at the same mark on her own wrist. She had expected to feel nothing. That was the plan. A political arrangement, nothing more. But when the human had spoken back to her, unafraid and honest, something had stirred inside her. Something she did not understand. She touched the mark and felt his heartbeat alongside her own. "Interesting," she whispered to the empty room. "Very interesting." Life on the flagship Crown of Stars was not easy for Sung. Everything was different. The gravity was heavier, which made his legs ache after walking. The air smelled like flowers he could not name. The lights were too bright and the silence was too deep. The other watched him constantly. They whispered in their clicking language when he passed. Some looked at him with curiosity. Others looked at him with something close to disgust. He was an outsider, a human, a creature from a world they had been trying to destroy just months ago. Princess gave him space. They shared the same quarters as tradition required, but she slept in a floating field of light while he slept in a small room attached to hers. They ate meals together, but the conversations were short and formal. She asked him polite questions. He gave her polite answers. Neither of them said what they were really thinking. Sung spent most of his time alone. He explored the ship when he was allowed. He read books from the ship's library, translated into rough English by the ship's computers. He exercised in a small gym that had been built for him, trying to keep his muscles strong against the heavy gravity. But slowly, small things began to change. He noticed that always made sure his food was prepared correctly. Food was dangerous for humans. Some of it could make him sick. Some of it could kill him. But every meal that reached his table was safe. Someone was checking. Someone was being careful. He noticed that when others spoke rudely about humans, would silence them with a single look. She never raised her voice. She never had to. Her authority was absolute, and she used it to protect him without ever saying a word. One evening, Sung was sitting in the observation room, watching the stars pass by. The door opened and entered. She did not speak at first. She simply stood beside him and looked at the same stars. "You miss your home," she said finally. It was not a question. "Yes," he admitted. "I miss Earth. I miss my family." "Tell me about them." So he did. He told her about his mother, who made the best soup in their small town. He told her about his sister, who was studying to become a doctor. He told her about Silly Dog, a small fluffy creature that barked at everything and feared nothing. Listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You form strong bonds with your family," she said. "Even with the animal. This is strange to me. Our bonds are based on duty and honor. Yours seem to be based on something else." "Love," Sung said. "We call it love." "Love," she repeated, as if tasting the word. "And this love, it is not efficient. It does not serve a purpose." Sung smiled. "That's exactly why we do it. Love is not supposed to be efficient. It just is." Did not respond, but she stayed beside him for another hour, watching the stars in silence. When she finally left, she paused at the door. "Thank you," she said, "for explaining." After that night, things were different. Began seeking him out. She asked him questions about Earth, not about weapons or military secrets, but about oceans, mountains, and seasons. She wanted to know why humans made music, why they painted pictures, why they told stories to their children. Sung answered every question as best he could, and as he talked, he realized something surprising, was genuinely curious. She was not pretending, she truly wanted to understand his world. He started keeping a journal. At first, it was just for himself, a way to process his strange new life. But then the military asked him to share his observations. They wanted to know about their culture, their customs, their way of thinking. Sung agreed. His journal became a blog that was sent back to Earth every week. Millions of people read it. They learned about art, which was made of light and sound. They learned about music, which could make you feel emotions you had never felt before. They learned about honor, which was absolute and unbreakable. And slowly, without meaning to, Sung began writing about. He wrote about her kindness, hidden beneath layers of formal behavior. He wrote about her intelligence, sharper than any blade. He wrote about the way she smiled when she thought nobody was watching, a small, secret smile that made her seem almost human. People on Earth became fascinated with her. They asked for more stories. They wanted to know everything about the alien princess who had married one of their own. 6 months passed. The peace held. Trade ships moved between Earth and space. Prisoners were returned to their families. The wounds of war began to heal. Sung counted the days until his year was finished. He told himself he was eager to go home. He told himself he missed Earth more than anything. But at night, when he lay in his small room and listened to the soft hum of the ship, he found himself thinking about her questions, about her quiet kindness, about the mark on his wrist that pulsed with 2 heartbeats instead of 1. He was starting to feel something he had not expected to feel. And that scared him more than the war ever had. The assassination attempt came on a night like any other. Sung was at a diplomatic reception, standing awkwardly in a corner while nobles talked around him. Was across the room, speaking with military commanders about trade routes. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed peaceful. Then the lights went out. Screams filled the darkness. Energy weapons flashed blue and white. Bodies fell. Guards shouted orders that nobody could hear over the chaos. Sung dropped to the ground, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. When the emergency lights flickered on, he saw them. 3 in black armor pushing through the crowd toward. Their weapons were raised. Their intent was clear. Sung did not think, he did not plan, he simply moved. He grabbed a ceremonial blade from a fallen guard and ran. He was not a soldier. He had never been trained for combat. But his body moved anyway, driven by something deeper than thought. He reached just as the first assassin raised his weapon. Sung threw himself between them, blade swinging wildly. He felt the weapon connect. He felt resistance, then release. The assassin fell, glowing blue blood spraying across Sung's clothes. The other 2 assassins hesitated. That moment of surprise was enough. Loyal guards reached them and brought them down with brutal efficiency. Then it was over. The lights came back on. The chaos faded into shocked silence, and Sung stood in the middle of it all, shaking, covered in alien blood, still holding the blade in his trembling hands. Stared at him. Her eyes were wide, her expression unreadable. "You could have died," she said. Her voice was strange, tight with emotion. "You should have run." "You're my wife," Sung heard himself say. "Sham or not, I wasn't going to watch you die." The words hung in the air between them. Sung did not know where they had come from. He had not planned to say them. But now that they were spoken, he knew they were true. Something changed in his eyes. Something soft, something vulnerable. The investigation that followed revealed the truth. A faction within the military hated the peace. They believed that ending the war was a betrayal of everyone who had died fighting it. They wanted to restart the conflict by killing the princess and blaming humans. The conspirators were arrested. The faction was destroyed. But the damage had already been done. Not to the peace which held strong, but to the wall that Sung and had built between themselves. After that night began seeking him out more often, not for political discussions, not for formal meetings, just to talk. She showed him the gardens where she had played as a child, a beautiful space filled with glowing plants that sang when you touched them. She introduced him to her grandmother, a tiny ancient named who had lived for 300 years. Studied Sung with sharp eyes. "You are the human who saved my granddaughter," she said. "I did what anyone would do," Sung replied. "No," said firmly. "Anyone would have run, you did not, that makes you special." She smiled, revealing teeth that were surprisingly white. "Also, you are prettier than I expected. Human men are usually so plain." Sung laughed despite himself. "Thank you, I think." Grandmother said, embarrassed, "Please stop. I am 300 years old, I will say whatever I want." Patted Sung's hand with her small, wrinkled fingers. "Take care of her, human. She pretends to be strong, but she is soft inside, like a fruit with a hard shell." "I will," Sung promised, and he meant it. The months continued to pass. Sung taught how to cook Korean food using the ship's synthesizers. The results were usually terrible. The rice was too sticky. The soup was too bland. The vegetables were the wrong color. But ate everything he made without complaint, and he loved her for it. Wait, loved. Sung pushed the thought away. It was too soon, too strange, too impossible. Then news came from Earth. His mother was sick, very sick. The doctors did not know if she would survive. Sung requested permission to visit. He expected to wait weeks for approval. Instead, personally arranged a ship to take him home at faster-than-light speed, and she insisted on coming with him. "You should not face this alone," she said simply. "I am your wife, I will stand beside you." They arrived on Earth 2 days later. Sung's mother was in a small hospital in his, caused a sensation just by walking through the doors. People stopped and stared. Children pointed. Nurses dropped their charts, but ignored them all. She sat beside Sung in the waiting room, holding his hand with 2 of hers while her other 2 hands clasped together in prayer. She stayed there for 6 hours without moving, without complaining, without asking for anything. His mother survived. When she woke up and saw the alien princess holding her son's hand, she did not scream or panic. She simply smiled. "You must be," she said in a weak voice. "Sung writes about you in his letters." "He writes about you as well," replied. "He says you make the best soup in your town." His mother laughed, then coughed. "He exaggerates, but I will make some for you when I am stronger." "I would like that very much." Later, when it stepped out, his mother grabbed Sung's hand. "She loves you," she whispered. "I can see it in her eyes." "Mom, we're not actually." "Hush," his mother said. "A mother always knows. Do not let this one go, my son. She is special." Sung looked at the door where it disappeared. His heart felt too big for his chest. Maybe his mother was right. Maybe he was starting to love her too. The final month of their agreement arrived like an unwelcome guest. Sung sat in his quarters on the crown of stars, staring at the dissolution documents on his desk. The papers were beautifully made, printed on material that felt like silk and glowed softly in the dim light. The words were written in both script and English. Everything was perfectly clear. All he had to do was sign his name, and the marriage would be over. One signature, one mark, and he would be free. The documents had been sitting on his desk for 3 weeks. He had not touched them. Every morning, he told himself that today would be the day. Today he would sign. Today he would end this strange chapter of his life and return to being a normal logistics officer on a normal ship doing normal work. But every evening, the papers remained unsigned. He tried to understand why. The past year had been difficult. He had been alone among aliens, far from his home, far from everything he knew. He should be eager to leave. He should be counting the hours. Instead, he found himself counting the hours he had left with. The door to his quarters opened, stood there, tall and silver and beautiful. She had stopped knocking months ago. It felt natural now, the way she simply appeared when she wanted to see him. "You have not signed," she said, looking at the papers on his desk. "No." "Is there a problem with the translation? I can have it redone." "The translation is fine." She stepped into the room, her 4 arms folded across her body. "Then why do you hesitate?" Sung looked at her, really looked at her. He had spent a year studying her face, learning to read the subtle changes in her expression. He had learned that her skin glowed brighter when she was happy and dimmed when she was sad. He had learned that she tilted her head slightly to the left when she was thinking hard about something. He had learned that her eyes softened when she looked at him, even when she was trying to hide it. He had learned so much about her, and somewhere along the way he had fallen in love. "What if I don't want to sign?" he asked. Skin flickered, shifting through several shades of silver. Her breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" "I mean exactly what I said. What if I don't want to end this?" She was quiet for a long moment. Her eyes searched his face, looking for something. Deception, maybe, or perhaps hope. "That would be acceptable," she finally said. Her voice was careful, controlled. "Just acceptable." The control broke, crossed the room in 3 quick steps and wrapped all 4 of her arms around him, lifting him off the ground as if he weighed nothing. She held him tight against her chest, and he could feel her hearts beating rapidly beneath her silver skin. "It would be everything," she whispered against his hair. "It would be everything, you impossible human. I have been waiting for you to say those words for months. I thought you would never say them. I thought you wanted to leave." Sung held her as tightly as he could. "I thought I wanted to leave too. I was wrong." She pulled back enough to look at his face. Her eyes were bright with tears that glowed like liquid starlight. "Are you certain? If you stay, your life will never be normal again. You will always be caught between 2 worlds. You will face challenges that no human has ever faced before." "I know. You will be judged, by your people and mine. Some will never accept you." "I know. You will have to learn our language, our customs, our laws. It will take years. It will be hard." He touched her face with both hands. Her skin was cool and smooth beneath his fingers. "I know all of this. I've thought about it every day for months, and I've made my choice." "What is your choice?" "You, my choice is you. It will always be you." She kissed him then. Her lips were different from human lips, softer and cooler, but the feeling was the same. The feeling of connection, the feeling of coming home. When they finally separated, Sung picked up the dissolution documents and tore them in half. "There," he said, "problem solved." Laughed, that beautiful wind chime laugh that had captured his heart from the very first day. "You just destroyed official imperial documents." "I'm married to the princess. I think I'll be fine." She laughed again and pulled him close. "I love you, Sung Park. I never thought I would say those words to a human, but I love you." "I love you too. I didn't expect it, I didn't plan it, but here we are." "Here we are," she agreed. News of their decision spread quickly. Some on the council were pleased, some were worried, some were angry. On Earth the reaction was similar. Some people celebrated, some people protested, some people did not know what to think. But Sung did not care about any of them. He only cared about the life they would build together, about the future that was now possible because he had been brave enough to stay. His mother sent a message when she heard the news. It was short and simple. "I told you so, now bring her home for soup." Sung smiled as he read it. Home, that word had changed meaning for him. Home was no longer a place. It was a person. A 7-foot-tall alien princess with silver skin and purple eyes and a heart big enough to love a small, ordinary human like him. He touched the mark on his wrist. It still pulsed with 2 heartbeats. But now, for the first time, those heartbeats felt like a promise instead of a reminder. A promise of forever. 3 years had passed, since Sung tore up the dissolution papers. He stood on the observation deck of the Crown of Stars, watching Earth rise over the curve of the moon. The blue planet glowed like a jewel against the black velvet of space. No matter how many times he saw it, the sight still took his breath away. Stood beside him, tall and beautiful as ever, but she was not alone. In her lower arms she held a small bundle wrapped in soft white cloth. Their daughter was a miracle. Scientists from both species had said it was impossible. Human and biology were too different. A child between them could never exist. But's grandmother had just laughed at the scientists and told them to have more faith. She had been right. After 2 years of trying, after countless failures and disappointments had been born, she was small, much smaller than Bobby's, but healthy and strong. Her skin was pale silver, like moonlight mixed with snow. Her eyes were dark like her father's, but they sparkled with hints of gold like her mother's. She had 2 arms like a human, but her fingers were longer and more delicate. She was perfect, absolutely perfect. "She is looking at Earth," said softly. "I think she recognizes it." Sung smiled. "She's 3 months old. She can barely recognize her own hands." "She is our daughter. She is exceptional." He could not argue with that. The galaxy had changed so much since their marriage. The peace between humans had grown into something stronger, something real. Trade flourished between the 2 civilizations. Joint colonies had been built on distant planets. Cultural exchanges happened every day. Human children learned songs. Children watched human movies. And it had all started with a sham marriage and a logistics officer who was too stubborn to leave. Sung's journal had been published as a book. It was called Living Among Stars, and it had become one of the most popular books on both Earth and in the Empire. Universities used it to teach diplomacy. Politicians quoted it in their speeches. Young people read it and dreamed of their own adventures among the stars. But Sung had not written it to be famous. He had written it because he wanted people to understand. Humans were different, yes, but they were not so different that they could not love each other. They were not so different that they could not build a future together. His mother had finally gotten her wish, had visited Earth and eaten her soup. She had declared it the best food she had ever tasted, which made his mother cry with happiness. Now they talked every week through video calls, exchanging recipes and gossip like old friends. His sister had become a doctor, just as she had always dreamed. She worked at a hospital that specialized in treating both humans and. Her silly dog had passed away last year, but she had adopted a pet in its place. It was a small creature that looked like a glowing jellyfish and hummed softly when it was happy. Grandmother was still alive, still sharp, still saying whatever she wanted. She had declared herself official great-grandmother and sent gifts every week. Most of the gifts were too big or too strange for a baby, but it was the thought that counted. "Do you ever regret it?" asked. She asked this question sometimes, usually late at night when they were alone. "Leaving your world?" Sung took from her arms. The baby gurgled happily and grabbed at his nose with her tiny silver fingers. He felt her small hearts beating against his chest. 2 hearts like her mother. "I didn't leave my world," he said. "I just found a bigger one." Smiled, that beautiful smile that still made his heart skip after all these years. "For a human, you occasionally say the right thing. I learned from the best." She leaned down and kissed him gently, made a sound of protest at being squished between them, and they both laughed. Below them, Earth continued its slow turn. Above them, the stars stretched out forever, full of possibilities they had not yet imagined. And in between, in this small pocket of warmth and light, a family held each other close. Sung thought about the man he had been 3 years ago, a logistics officer, expendable, nobody important. A man who had expected to spend 1 year in a fake marriage and then disappear back into his ordinary life. That man felt like a stranger now. He had learned so much since then. He had learned that courage was not about being unafraid. It was about being afraid and choosing to stay anyway. He had learned that love did not have to make sense. It just had to be real. He had learned that home was not a place you came from, but a place you built with the people you loved. And he had learned that sometimes the most important journeys were the ones you never expected to take. "What are you thinking about?" asked. "Nothing," he said. "Everything us." That is not a real answer. "I know," he smiled at her, "but it's the only one I have." She shook her head but smiled back. "You are a very strange human, Sung Park. And you're a very strange alien, Park." She raised an eyebrow. "Park. You married me. You get my name, that's how it works. On Earth, perhaps on Prime. We're in space. I'm declaring space to be neutral territory." She laughed too, even though she did not understand why. And Sung held them both, his wife and his daughter, and felt something he had never felt before. Not just happiness, not just love, something bigger than both of those things. Peace. The war was over. The peace had begun. And in the vast emptiness of space, one human and one had found something precious. A home, a family, a future. Together,